I actually am a huge fan of making sure that people's interests are kept at the center of what we do, that people can opt into advertising. You may not know this, but almost every time you see an ad on the internet, an auction is run. And that auction is run by the publisher who has some space to sell, and they're running that auction typically with a whole bunch of other companies. Each of those companies represents tens, hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of advertisers, all who could be potentially interested in getting their ad in front of your eyeballs at that moment in time. There's sort of like a good and a bad side of it. Sometimes it's sort of the creepy ads that follow you around. You don't want to see them anymore. But at best, if you think about it, especially back in the day for people that are older like myself, we used to get physical magazines for areas, our hobbies and our interests. And those magazines are filled with advertising that we pay for. We literally are paying to be advertised to. If the world sort of presented itself to you with ads that are interesting and relevant, people would probably have and also not only that, but at the right time, when it's like your brain and your mind is open to receiving the advertising, it would be a much better world. And in the long run, ultimately, for those of us who work in the scaled advertising space, relevant advertising is definitely a piece of it. The biggest challenges we face are kind of intertwined. They have to do with identity and regulations and privacy. And as a person who doesn't particularly like advertising, mostly because it's irrelevant and not timed for my interest, right? I actually am a huge fan of making sure that people's interests are kept at the center of what we do, that people can opt into advertising, that they have the right to be forgotten or deleted, all of these things around privacy. But it is challenging because every sort of government in the world, and I come from the United States, and almost every state will have their own take on what is the right regulatory policy and how do we sort of work with all of them to comply, and what's maybe the least common denominator that can apply to all of them. But there has been a lot of work that is mandated in order to accomplish that. There's a lot of niche players that can be very small. So you can find a startup and have a good time in that. But once you really get into it, you're likely going to be working in a larger company environment. So if you like, high transactions, and the core of what we do is going to be research, predictive analytics, data science, working with software engineers to optimize the spend of advertisers, drive yield for publishers. Those are areas that if you enjoy, you can find huge scale problems and interesting problems of research and great feedback on the fact that I made this change and it provides more money for someone, and you can a lot of experimentation. So there's some very interesting things that go on with scale research. We also have our own areas of enterprise applications. You have to configure the inventory. You have to configure the campaigns that are going to buy against that inventory, so user experience and APIs. And we work with business-to-business customers who expect things to be easy. So if you want to focus on how to make an application experience at scale easy and focus on customers, we definitely have that as well. So it's a pretty diverse array of things that we do.